Most hunters would agree that there is something simply magical about laying eyes on a black bear. Maybe it's the fact that, in most of the US, they're the biggest, baddest things in the woods, something perfectly capable of laying you open with a swipe of a paw. Or it might be their almost human-like ability to adapt to challenges and solve problems. Whatever it is, there's little wonder why hunters have had such a complex relationship with this beast since the beginning of time. I'm Steven Ranella. To me, hunting isn't only about the pursuit of an animal. It's about who we are and what we're made of. I live to hunt and hunt to live. I am a meat eater. Prince of Wales Island, Tongass National Forest. My brothers and I, along with a buddy, bought a hunting and fishing shack up here about a decade ago. It's an outdoorsman's paradise, but it takes a lot of work to keep this place operational. And when I say operational, it's more like just getting by.
So our shack's been sitting empty since last August when my brothers buttoned it up after they got done fishing halibut and salmon. No one's been here 9 months, and now I'm coming out here to hunt bears. It's May, and I know that stuff's probably gonna be screwed up because weather and time have a way of destroying equipment that far surpasses people's ability to destroy gear. My goal here is just to get everything hooked up, get the water on, get the stove ready, make myself a comfortable bear camp. A mink's been living in here. Good Lord. This is obviously his toilet area. What a mess, man. Yeah. In all the years I spent mink trapping, I don't think I've ever seen that much mink.
With the cabin clean enough for the time being, the next step is to get the water flowing.
This is a gravity-fed water system. We suck water in this hose here, goes down that pipe, it's gonna drop into the stainless steel container. Hook our water line up to that, and then what it does is it gives you enough elevation where we're high enough above the shack that you actually have gravity-fed water pressure, and that water pressure builds up. It's enough to run a couple different faucets inside of the house. Whatever happens here is gonna color the texture of the whole trip. If I hook this thing up and that penstock fills up with water and I get water gushing down out the place, which will not happen. If I do, I know everything's gonna be great and we got a rock solid trip. Now what I'll do is I'll walk down and keep trying to shake out little air traps and get all the air bubbles out. Oh no. Oh, come on. Forgot one thing in my mental checklist. This thing is a on-demand hot water heater. And to keep it from freezing in the winter, we unhook the intake line and outtake line, and then you're supposed to remember to hook it back up, which I didn't do. And now this thing is soaked, and it's gonna take some drying out before it's gonna want to light. But you're supposed to do just like this right here. It prevents you from flooding the place. But other than that, this water thing went pretty good.
This ain't the kind of place you just come up to kill a weekend, as getting the shack up and running can take a full day or more. But with a little luck, I'm done by nightfall and ready to do some planning.
The most reliable places to find bears are the estuaries, big creek mouths. In the fall, they're there because they're feeding on salmon. Now they're there because What they like to eat a lot of, it seems, when the salmon aren't in and they come out of hibernation, they like to eat a lot of grass off grass flats, and they like to eat a lot of shellfish, particularly blue mussels. So I'm just thinking of all these little places I know about that fit that criteria and where I might go look for some.
The shack might be ready for action, but I'm also going to need to get a boat and motor into the water.
More than any other thing, these things are what make and break you, man. If I can get this outboard engine to fire, we're gonna be in good shape. That's a miracle right there, man.
Getting everything working on the first try is generally unheard of. I take it as a good omen. Less time fiddling with gear means more time hunting, and also plenty of time to gather seafood.
90% of the bears you see in the last hour or two of the day. I mean, you can see them at all times, but man, they really start to pop the last couple hours of the day. When you have 14, 15, 16-hour days, it's harder to sit on your butt waiting for that last 2 hours of daylight when you know you're probably gonna wind up running into your bear. So I'll do some looking, but I won't get real serious about looking until we're at the end of the day. Thankfully, though, in this area, there's tons of stuff to occupy your time because you trap crabs, dig clams, trap shrimp, fish. There's always stuff to do here. I mean, this is one of the richest hunting and fishing environments I've ever found. The minute we stepped foot out here and started cruising around in a skiff, and then we knew that this was kind of the hunting and fishing promised land. It's just it's a great place to hang out. We got a low tide right now, and I'm gonna take advantage of it by grabbing some mussels. These are called blue mussels. These are the same mussels you see in restaurants.
Now, these mussels may look appetizing, but during periods of red tide, consuming them can cause paralytic shellfish poisoning. So always check with regional authorities about red tide alerts before consuming any shellfish.
This is one of my favorite things. I order these in restaurants all the time. I love these. These would be grittier than what you're used to, but they're still quite edible. And this is what the bears feed on. It's kind of a weird thing knowing that bears like them. It's like you shoot a deer, the deer really isn't eating. I mean, he might be eating apples now and then, but for the most part, the deer isn't eating anything you would eat. Like, you're not gonna go graze alfalfa. To have your favorite food be a point of commonality between you and the thing you're hunting is weird. I think that's partly one of the reasons why hunting bears is problematic to some people. I know a lot of guys that just, when they quit hunting bears, it was the first time they saw a skinned out bear hanging up, and they just thought it looked just way too much like a person hanging there.
These mussels are gonna be great, but there's still a ton of time left in the day before the bears really start to pop. So I'm gonna set a few crab and shrimp traps in order to take full advantage of the daylight hours.
This is one of my best crab spots, like just consistent producer on crabs. There's a river back in here that has a good salmon run. So in the summer, we're typically doing a lot of crab trapping. It could be those crabs that are in here because they're in here feeding on salmon. You want to set in about 8 fathoms of water, fathom 6 feet, so it'd be like 48 feet.
With my crab traps all set, I head out towards my favorite shrimping spot.
We're in a big, deep inlet. In some places, people would call it like a fjord. It's just like a narrow channel that just dead ends up in the mountains. And the sides are steep and they don't just come down and taper off when they hit the water. These things come down and you got the water here and they just like, it's a pit. And it's good for shrimp. We're just under 240 feet right here.
The kind of shrimp I'm setting for is called a spot prawn. They are big, carnivorous, heavily armed shrimp with a long spear jutting out from their head. And they are delicious. With the traps all set, it's about time to look for those bears. I head toward an area where I've seen a lot of bear activity in the past, and I slowly make my way through a series of narrow passages. It doesn't take long. They're both fairly large, definitely not young cubs. But the thing is, they're still hanging out together, which doesn't sit well with me.
I think it's just two bear siblings. Pretty bulky bears, though, but not ones I'd want to shoot, especially hanging out together still.
I move on and head deeper into the channel.
There's a little network of coves and channels back in here, but it's real tight. I'm just afraid that this engine makes too much noise for how narrow the confines are. So I'm just gonna drop an anchor here, throw my canoe in, and then paddle up in there. In the spring, bears are doing typically two things. Eating grass, like this beach grass you see around here, or they're feeding on mussels. And they also just walk the beach, looking for stuff, because they can't go up high. It's all snow up there, so nothing growing yet.
After another hour or so of paddling, I spot some movement on a distant rock formation. It's another bear, this time by itself.
I don't think that's a very big bear. I want to get a better look at it.
Once I get closer, I can see it is in fact a decent bear. But as I set up to take the shot, it disappears into the woods. Did I move too slowly? Did I hesitate? Was I worried about that branch deflecting the bullet? Who knows?
That's a good bear.
My only hope now is that I didn't just blow my last opportunity.
Man, that's a nice big bear.
I hunt out the rest of the evening, but that's the last bear I see. I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow. It's the next day, and I'm back on the water at low tide when the mussel beds are exposed. There's a ton of ground to cover, and it takes a lot of searching the shorelines, but my persistence pays off, and soon enough,
there's another bear right up here.
That's a good bear. Here comes another bear right here. That's a small bear there. That's a nice bear, man. It is right there, but I'm just not feeling it. It's weird, it's just, now that I'm here, I mean, I went through a lot to come bear hunting, but it's just oftentimes when I'm looking at a bear, I don't know. Every time I look at a black bear through the scope, I'm always like, would I rather watch that black bear shoot it? And a lot of times I'd just rather watch the bear. I love hunting bears. I don't know, I love hunting bears. But there's something about, like, the value for me. You know, I'll kill more bears in my life, I guarantee it. But, and I still want to get a grizzly really bad. I've never gotten a grizzly. I'm gonna go this fall and try to get a grizzly. But I'm just gonna slip back out of here. Just kind of keep enjoying my time looking around. It's just weird. I'm just not dying to shoot that bear.
I still don't know why I did what I did that day. Yet while I might have just kept that incident to myself for fear that I'd come across as being soft or having lost my killer instinct, I wanted to open it up and show it for what it was. And it's simple to explain. In that moment, I felt more like watching a bear than shooting one.
It's not that your bloodthirst fades, it's something different happens. You look at, you know, indigenous cultures, indigenous hunter-gatherer cultures. A lot of them eat bears, yeah, but a lot of them recognize that it's like, that it means something more.
Hunting brings about all these snap decisions that we have to end up living over and over again in our minds. There are shots we didn't take but should have, and shots we shouldn't have taken but did. In the end, I suppose the latter are a lot easier to deal with than the former. The hunting life is never short on complexity. There's always something to keep you up at night. By looking at animals, I suppose, we end up looking pretty closely at ourselves. Who needs bear meat anyway when I've got this feast of seafood to enjoy? Prepping it couldn't be simpler. Just get some water boiling in a big pot and do not skimp on the salt.
My neighbor over here who first introduced me to all this likes to salt his water for boiling crab until it's like as salty as the ocean. It like really brings out the sweetness in the crab somehow. Like by adding salt, you get sweetness. I don't understand the chemistry of it, but I'm a believer in it. Do these for about 10 minutes. And now I'm gonna add these guys in.
Got a little butter melting. And these Dungeness crab, man, I'll dip them in butter, but it doesn't even need butter. There's just a lot of substance to this crab. These shrimp, the texture on them is like a meatier texture. Part of that has to do with being fresh, but these are nice and meaty and firm. Give that a dip. And this tastes like a great version of a shrimp, you know? And this is like a dream. You take them like this. If you've never had Dungeness, you really should try it sometime. It's crab for sure, but it's glorified crab. It's like every good thing about crab is in this crab. Blue mussel, these are clean and nice, man. I watched a lot of bears this week chewing on blue mussels, you know? And here I am chewing on a blue mussel. Old hunters would always say like that there's these different stages of being a hunter, you know? And one of the late stages of being a hunter is you get into this thing where it's just not always about the kill, you know? It becomes about other things as well. And I used to be like, oh yeah, of course, I can see that. But I guess now the older I get, like I feel that more sometimes. I will go out again and shoot a bear and eat the bear. But right now, I guess I'm just as happy knowing that we're just kind of out here together enjoying a meal of blue mussels.